January 3rd, 2026. 2:47 a.m. While most of the world sleeps, American special forces descend on Caracas, Venezuela. Within hours, a sitting president is in handcuffs on a U.S. warship heading to New York. Trump calls it a victory against drug trafficking. But here's what they're not telling you. Was this really about drugs? Or was it about the 303 billion barrels of oil sitting beneath Venezuelan soil, the largest reserve on the planet? Was it about stopping China from building an economic empire in America's backyard? Or was it about something even bigger, the survival of the US dollar itself? Because here's the thing nobody's talking about. Venezuela wasn't just selling oil to China, they were about to price it in Chinese yuan. And if that happened, if the world's largest oil reserve started trading outside the dollar system, well, let's just say the last country that tried that was Iraq. The one before that, Libya. See the pattern? To understand what really happened in Venezuela, we need to go back, way back, to a time when this country wasn't a cautionary tale. It was a miracle. Venezuela, located at the northern coast of South America, the Caribbean Gateway. Look at this map. See how it sits right at the top of the continent? Borders Colombia to the west, Brazil to the south, Guyana to the east. More importantly, look how close it is to the United States. Just 300 miles from Miami. Closer than Los Angeles. This isn't just geography. This is geopolitics. For over a century, the United States has operated under something called the Monroe Doctrine. The idea that the Western Hemisphere is America's sphere of influence. Translation: no outside powers, not Europe, not Russia, definitely not China, get to play in America's backyard. Remember that. It becomes important later. In 1950, Venezuela was the fourth richest country in the world by GDP per capita. Let that sink in. Richer than Japan, richer than most of Europe. They called it Saudi Venezuela. The reason? Oil. Massive amounts of it. In 1914, drillers struck black gold in Lake Maracaibo, and they kept finding more, and more, and more. Today, we know Venezuela sits on 303 billion barrels of proven reserves. That's 18% of all the oil on Earth. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than anyone. In the 1950s and 60s, oil money transformed Venezuela. Caracas became the Dubai of the Americas. Skyscrapers shot up. Highways snaked through mountains. The middle class exploded. Venezuelans were so rich that they used to go to Miami to shop on weekends. Europeans immigrated to Venezuela looking for a better life. Think about that. In 1960, Venezuela helped found OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They were a founding member alongside Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Kuwait. They weren't a developing nation. They were players. But here's the problem with oil wealth. It's a drug. And Venezuela was about to overdose. In 1976, Venezuela nationalized its oil industry. Creates PDVSA, the state oil company. Smart move, right? Keep the profits at home. But here's what they didn't do. Diversify. Why build factories when you can just pump oil? Why invest in education when petrodollars flow like water? By the 1980s, oil accounted for 90% of Venezuela's export revenue. Then came 1986. Oil prices crashed, dropped 70% in a single year. Suddenly the party was over. The 1980s became Venezuela's lost decade. Living standards collapsed, poverty doubled. In February 1989, the government announced austerity measures, price hikes, spending cuts, IMF-style reforms. The people exploded. El Caracazo, the Caracas uprising. Thousands took to the streets. The government responded with bullets. Official death toll, 300. Real estimates, over 3,000. And watching all of this was a young military officer named Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez grew up poor, son of school teachers, mixed indigenous and African ancestry. He saw the corruption of the elites, saw the oil wealth that never reached the barrios. In 1992, he tried to take power the fast way, a coup. It failed. But here's what made Chavez different. When he surrendered on live television, he said two words that changed Venezuelan history. Pora hora. For now. He went to prison as a failed rebel. He came out a folk hero. 1998. Chavez runs for president, legally this time. His message? The elites stole your oil. I'll give it back. He won in a landslide. What Chavez built was called the Bolivarian Revolution, named after Simón Bolívar, the liberator of South America. And at first, it worked. Oil prices surged in the 2000s. Chavez used the money for massive social programs. Free healthcare, free education, food subsidies for the poor. Poverty dropped from 50% to under 30%. The poor loved him. The international left celebrated him. But Chavez wasn't just building social programs. He was building something else: control. He rewrote the Constitution, extended term limits, packed the courts, nationalized industries, and PDVSA, the golden goose? He gutted it. After a strike in 2002-2003, Chavez fired 18,000 PDVSA workers, nearly half the workforce. Engineers, geologists, managers, the people who actually knew how to run an oil company. He replaced them with political loyalists. Look at this graph. Even while oil prices were sky high, Venezuelan production started falling. The machinery wasn't maintained. The expertise was gone. The golden goose was being slaughtered in slow motion. In 2013, Hugo Chavez died of cancer. And the man who took over would finish what Chavez started. Nicolás Maduro was Chavez's hand-picked successor, a former bus driver turned union leader turned politician. He had Chavez's ideology, but not his charisma, and definitely not his luck. Because in 2014, oil prices crashed again, from $100 a barrel to $30. Venezuela had no savings, no other industries, no plan B. What happened next was the worst peacetime economic collapse in modern history. GDP fell 88% between 2013 and 2021. 88%. Inflation. In 2018 alone, it hit 1,000%. People were paying for bread with stacks of cash, then wheelbarrows of cash, then the currency became worthless. Hospitals ran out of medicine. The murder rate became one of the highest on earth. Zoo animals were stolen for food. 8 million Venezuelans fled the country. 8 million. That's a quarter of the population. The largest refugee crisis in the Western Hemisphere. From the fourth richest country in the world to this. And through all of this, Maduro stayed in power. Elections were rigged. Opposition leaders were jailed. Protests were crushed. But while Venezuela collapsed, someone else was paying very close attention. While America was sanctioning Venezuela, China was writing checks. Between 2007 and 2024, China loaned Venezuela over $60 billion. Some estimates say as high as $100 billion when you include all investments. The collateral: oil. Venezuela pays back these loans in crude. Today, 85% of Venezuelan oil exports go to China. 85%. But China wasn't just in Venezuela. They were everywhere. In 2024, trade between China and Latin America hit $518 billion. That's not a typo. Over $500 billion. Back in 2000, it was just $12 billion. China is now South America's largest trading partner, bigger than the United States. They've built ports in Peru, including a new megaport called Shanxi that opened in late 2024. They're financing infrastructure in Brazil, Ecuador, Argentina. 21 Latin American countries have joined China's Belt and Road Initiative. Remember that Monroe Doctrine I mentioned? The one about America's backyard? China just knocked on the back door and walked right in. The United States tried everything to remove Maduro. Everything short of what they just did. First sanctions, they froze assets, banned oil imports, blacklisted officials, cut Venezuela off from the dollar system. Result? Venezuela just sold to China instead. Found workarounds, shadow tankers, cryptocurrency, yuan payments. Second, regime change by proxy. In 2019, the US recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as the legitimate president. Just one problem. Guaido controlled nothing. No military, no territory. He was president of a Twitter account. By 2023, even the Venezuelan opposition had abandoned him. The whole thing became an international embarrassment. Third, diplomatic isolation. America demanded the world treat Maduro as illegitimate. Result? 134 countries never recognized Guaido. Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Venezuela's own neighbors, restored relations with Caracas anyway. Fourth, conditional engagement. The Biden administration tried a softer approach, licenses for Chevron to operate in Venezuela, promises of sanctions relief in exchange for fair elections. Maduro took the concessions, then rigged the July 2024 election anyway. 20 years of pressure, and Maduro was still there, still pumping oil, still sending it to China. America was running out of options. Well, almost all of them. January 3rd, 2026. Hours before midnight, Chinese Special Envoy Qiu Xiaoqi met with Maduro in Caracas. Routine diplomatic meeting, they said. What neither man knew, American eyes were already watching. At 2:47 a.m. local time, Delta Force operators launched what the Pentagon would call Operation Absolute Resolve. Details remain classified, but here's what we know. American special forces penetrated Venezuelan airspace undetected. They reached Maduro's location, likely a presidential residence in Caracas. Within minutes, Nicolás Maduro, president of Venezuela since 2013, survivor of coups, sanctions, and international pressure, was in American custody. Him and his wife, both captured. 0 American casualties. Trump, speaking at Mar-a-Lago hours later, could barely contain himself. You're probably never going to get to see what I saw last night. It was amazing. These guys were moving so fast. He had watched the whole thing in real time, like it was a movie. By sunrise, Maduro was on a U.S. warship, heading to New York to face federal charges of narco-terrorism and drug trafficking, charges that had been sealed since 2020. The official story. Maduro was a drug lord. Venezuela was a narco-state. The Cartel de los Soles, Cartel of the Suns, named for the stars on Venezuelan generals' uniforms, had been flooding America with cocaine. Then there was Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang that had spread across the United States, which Trump had designated a terrorist organization just weeks before. Drugs and gangs. That was the public justification, but something Trump said at that same press conference told a different story. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. Wait, I thought this was about drugs. Let's play a game. Let's look at all the reasons given for this operation and see which ones hold up. Reason 1, drug trafficking. Is Venezuela involved in drug trafficking? Yes, the evidence is substantial. Venezuelan officials have been indicted in U.S. courts. The Cartel de los Soles is real. Cocaine does flow through Venezuelan territory. But here's the problem. So does Colombia. So does Honduras. So does Mexico. The United States hasn't launched military operations to capture any of those governments. In fact, most cocaine that reaches America comes through Mexico, not Venezuela. If this was really about drugs, why not invade Mexico? Drugs are real. But they're probably not the reason. Otherwise, Mexico would be a target. Reason 2, democracy and human rights. Did Maduro rig elections? Yes, almost certainly. Was his government authoritarian? Absolutely. But America is allied with Saudi Arabia, a literal monarchy with no elections at all. Egypt, the UAE. Democracy has never been a consistent standard for American intervention. It's an argument used when convenient, not the reason. Reason number 3, oil access. Now we're getting somewhere. Here's something most people don't understand. The United States produces massive amounts of oil. It's the world's largest producer, but American oil is mostly light sweet crude. good for making gasoline, but not for making diesel, jet fuel, or asphalt. The massive refineries along the Texas and Louisiana coast, they were built 50 years ago to process heavy sour crude, the thick tar-like oil that comes from Venezuela, Canada, and the Middle East. In 2024, 62% of all US crude imports were heavy crude. Right now, most of that comes from Canada. But Canadian pipelines are maxed out. Saudi Arabia? The relationship is strained. The Saudis are pivoting toward China. Venezuela sitting right next door with 303 billion barrels of exactly the type of oil American refineries need. That's not just valuable, that's strategic. Reason 4, blocking China. This might be the biggest piece. Remember, 85% of Venezuelan oil was going to China. China had $100 billion invested in the country. More importantly, China was building an economic network across Latin America, America's backyard. $518 billion in trade, ports, railways, 21 countries in the Belt and Road. Venezuela was the crown jewel, a friendly government sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, trading in yuan, part of BRICS, actively working against American interests. Taking Venezuela doesn't just get America the oil, it sends a message to every other Latin American government. Choose carefully. Reason 5, the dollar system. And this might be the deepest layer. The US dollar isn't just currency, it's the operating system of global trade. For 50 years, oil has been priced in dollars worldwide. Want to buy oil? You need dollars. This creates constant demand for American currency. That demand allows America to borrow cheaply, print money without immediate inflation, and maintain economic dominance. But that system is fracturing. The dollar's share of global reserves has fallen from 71% in 1999 to about 58% today. BRICS countries are settling more trades in local currencies. Saudi Arabia has started accepting yuan from China. Venezuela, with its 303 billion barrels, was reportedly exploring pricing its oil in a basket of currencies led by the yuan. Saddam Hussein announced he would price Iraqi oil in euros in 2000, invaded 2003. Muammar Gaddafi was working on a gold-backed African currency for oil trades, dead 2011. Nicolás Maduro, increasingly aligned with China's financial system, selling oil in yuan, captured 2026. Coincidence? Maybe. Pattern? Definitely. So where does this go? Trump said American oil companies will fix Venezuela's infrastructure and start making money. But reality is more complicated. Venezuela's oil infrastructure is in ruins. Pipelines haven't been updated in 50 years. Storage tanks are corroding. Refineries are operating at less than 20% capacity. Experts estimate it would take tens of billions of dollars and 5 to 10 years just to get production back to where it was in the 1990s. Oil executives are skeptical. ExxonMobil's CEO called Venezuela uninvestable under current conditions. ConocoPhillips reminded everyone they lost billions when Chavez nationalized their assets. Why would they go back? Scenario 1. Controlled transition. The US brokers a deal. A transitional government takes over, elections happen, oil contracts get renegotiated, investment flows in. This is the best case. It would take years, and it requires cooperation from a lot of people who have reasons not to cooperate. Scenario 2. Fragmentation. The government fractures. Regional strongmen, military factions, and criminal networks fight for control. Oil production stays disrupted. Investment doesn't happen. The humanitarian crisis worsens. This is the Iraq scenario, the Libya scenario. Scenario 3, great power stalemate. China doesn't accept the outcome. They continue supporting elements of the old regime. They use economic leverage across Latin America to isolate US-backed structures. Venezuela becomes a long-term battleground between American and Chinese interests. This is the Cold War scenario, except in America's backyard. Here's what Venezuela teaches us about how the world actually works. The reasons governments give for their actions are rarely the whole truth. Drugs, democracy, human rights. These are the headlines. Oil, currencies, trade routes, power. These are the balance sheets. And in the gap between what's said and what's done, that's where you find the real story. Venezuela was the richest country in Latin America. Then it wasn't. A cautionary tale about oil dependence, about populism, about how quickly wealth can vanish when institutions collapse. But it's also a case study in great power competition, in how empires maintain their position, in the brutal logic that operates beneath the surface of international relations. Right now, similar chess games are being played across the world. Taiwan, the Middle East, Africa. The rules are the same, the stakes are the same. The gap between stated reasons and real motivations, that's the same too. The question isn't whether these dynamics exist. The question is whether you're paying attention. Because while everyone was watching the helicopters, someone was reading the balance sheet. If this changed how you think about what just happened in Venezuela, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Do you think this was about drugs, oil, China, or something else entirely? I read every comment. See you in the next one. Subscribe and turn on the notification if you want to learn more about geopolitics, business, and startups.